In 1642, the conflict between Parliament and King Charles really came to a head, and it broke out in this conflict called the English Civil War. And this is a really important war in establishing the idea of constitutional monarchy in England. The two armies that fought here were nicknamed the Cavaliers, so called because they were knights, mostly royalists, nobility who backed the king, and the Roundheads, the Puritan army, because their helmets were round. There were lots of battles. The war dragged on for a while, but ultimately the army of the Parliament and the Puritans, the Roundheads, whose leader was a Puritan general named Oliver Cromwell, ultimately defeated Charles and the Royalists. Cromwell, as the head of the army, then declared a new government called the English Commonwealth. And effectively, this is, in theory at least, an English republic, really a Puritan republic. Immediately, there's lots of warfare as soon as this happens, even at the end of the Civil War, because in Ireland, which significant portions of Ireland were under English control, being mostly Catholic, they rebelled against this, so Cromwell was out fighting in Ireland and trying to sort of rally the Puritans against other uprisings in Scotland. But you've got now Cromwell takes control of Parliament. Now, at first you think, okay, this is going to be a victory for Parliament. He's on the Parliament side. But pretty quickly, Cromwell kind of runs into trouble with Parliament. And when Parliament really didn't pass the laws he wanted to, he actually marched into Parliament and dismissed most of it under the title of Lord Protector, which he declared himself. He then declared a new Parliament, which is often called the Rump Parliament, and which was really just people that he specifically selected because they supported him. So quickly you see the English Commonwealth, which was supposed to be a republic, turn more towards this military dictatorship under Cromwell. One of the most important acts was the trial of Charles I. There was a trial that tried Charles for treason against the English people, and ultimately the result was that Charles was executed, the first and only sitting English monarch to be executed. And this is a pretty significant turning point, because now it seems like you really have the establishment of this republic. But then we have a movement that turns, like I said, the Commonwealth away from this idea of a republic and more towards really sort of a religious military dictatorship. The Puritans that were in charge passed a lot of laws, well, we should say Cromwell passed a lot of laws, that a lot of people didn't like. Puritans, being very strictly religious and strictly anti-Catholic, went after anything that looked even a little bit like Catholicism, or looked sinful. So public dances were banned, theater was banned, Christmas was banned, and it seemed like a lot of people really didn't want things to go quite that far, even if they supported Puritanism and Protestantism. Cromwell then later declared that it was no longer the Commonwealth, but it was the English Protectorate, which put him, as the Lord Protector, as the head of the government. And Parliament at this point really didn't even meet. So you have this idea, you kind of question, okay, why did this revolution happen? Did it happen because there was a desire for constitutional rule and not absolutism, like Charles had been leaning towards, or because they wanted a Protestant rule? Under Cromwell, it really seems more like it was the Protestantism part. However, the Protectorate in Cromwell increasingly became unpopular. And when Cromwell died, the council, the people in charge, appointed his son Richard as Lord Protector, but pretty quickly he was made to step down from that position. And then we kind of surprisingly have moved back towards monarchy, called the Restoration, which we'll talk about in the next video.